Howdy, I'm known as Dimwit, last mountainman, feared throughout the land. Let's revisit my drop breech rifle today because I've been making some more ammo for it, and I've been making longer cartridges, and I have a chronograph here with me today, so we're going to see how it performs. And I'm going to this is a takedown gun, so last time I didn't show you how to take it apart. We'll do that, and I'll explain to you how I made the ammo for this. It's a 44 Rimfire, and let's start with a little bit of a look at the ammo, and then we'll do some shooting, and then we'll talk some more about how I did the loading process. All right, here I started out with 303 Savage brass, and I made these first. That's as long as I could make them, because otherwise the bullet would be hitting the lands of the rifling. And then what I've done now is I have reamed out a little bit of the rifling at the end of the chamber, and I was able to make a little bit of longer cartridge. And when you look at this one here that I cut in half, there's a lot of metal in that compared to these old rimfires. So it's important to make those cartridges as long as possible to get as much powder in there as possible. And we're getting 26, 27 grains of 3F powder in this long cartridge, and that's about almost the same as a 44 Army percussion revolver from the Civil War. But the revolvers, they lose a lot of pressure from the gap between the cylinder and barrel, and we don't have that problem here. So we'll see. And just for comparison, this is a 44 Magnum casing, so you can see it's almost identical, but it is a little bit slimmer. And this is 44 Special, and then we have a 45 ACP round here for comparison, and this is the bullet that I'm using. So this is the finished product from the casings that I made, and they use 22 blanks as a primer, 6mm blanks, same thing. And I have several videos with these kinds of homemade cartridges, and you can also buy them from several places, and I'll be sure to post some links in my description. So let's try and shoot. And I have a target set up 50 yards downrange, and so we're going to see what kind of a group we're getting when we're done. And I'm going to shoot 5 of these new long cartridges, and I'm going to shoot 5 of the earlier ones that I made that are a little shorter. And due to the black powder fouling, I'm going to start out with the longest cartridges, so that way we won't have any problems getting them in there later on from the fouling. So It's just enough room here to get it in there, so it's not possible to make a longer cartridge for this gun. And from that brass you couldn't make it any longer either. So this is what we have to work with. I'm going to put some different glasses on. And I'm going to use this contraption to steady my aim a bit, because we want to see what the gun can do, not what an old man can do. So let's see, that's 50 yards, and my glasses are fogging up. This is awkward. That was a total disaster. You probably saw it. So that's what it looks like now. Okay. And that was 954 feet per second, and I think we can add about 50 feet per second, so that's about 1,000 feet per second, because my chronograph is showing a little too little. $961, so probably right around 1,000 feet per second. $961. Is that the same reading as before? Oh, I might have skipped one, but we'll see. Well, this thing has a floating firing pin, and it seems to stick a little bit in the cartridge. That's why I'm having a little trouble pushing it down. I have not noticed that before. I might have to round the end off a little more or something, shorten it a little bit. We'll see. But there's nothing wrong with the gun, really. 964. 964. Last one of the magnums. $985 almost. So now we'll try the shorter ones. Okay. $926.4. So yeah, there's definitely a difference. I could also feel a difference on the recoil. It's got definitely has some recoil, you know, enough to make it interesting to shoot. And then there is definitely a difference between the short and the long cartridge. So I'm going to say the long cartridges are a success. $921.4. 880, so that one was a little slower than the others. But other than that, it's difficult to remember. But it seems that we have fairly constant velocity from one to the next, except that one. That could have a little to do with how well the bullet fit the casing. We're going to talk a little bit about that once we're done with the shooting. Let's see. 897.1. This will be the last one for today. And I mention this in almost every video, it seems, but I suffer from a skeleton and connecting tissue disease, and I've been on painkillers 24/7 for 13 years now, and it affects me every minute of every day, and it's gotten increasingly difficult to be a good shot. So that's why I'm using this. Sorry, excuse. Okay, that was it. Before I show you the target, I'm not sure I want to. Let me tell you, well, let me show you how to take the gun apart. And if you are wondering about that blue piece of tape with a little hole in it, I use that to create the diopter effect to give me a clear sight picture of the front sight and the rear sight and the target. Now I have made a video about this, so check that out. Now I had difficulty with my glasses fogging up, and it seems I put it in a little wrong place, so I didn't use it now. So okay. Take it apart. There's a little screw here with a square head. It goes all the way through, sticks out the other end. So we're going to take that out. Have to be careful so we don't scratch the beautiful old gun. So there it is. Make sure you don't drop it. And then it just pulls apart like that. So now you can put it in your suitcase or your backpack or whatever, and easier to travel with. I forgot to take the last spent casing out. That was making it difficult to put back together, no wonder. And like that. Like so. And I've been thinking about making a knife to go with the gun with kind of a square hole in the back end here, so I can use that as a screwdriver to take it apart, but I haven't gotten around to that yet. So let's talk about how to make reloadable rimfire ammo. And here's one that's not finished. Okay, so we start out with this one. We cut it off and deburr it and things like that. And then this is a little bit tapered, but the finished product are parallel sides. So I have a tool that I put in my reloading press, and this goes into the casing and widens it out. So it has to be just the right size, and you have to polish it so it's very smooth, and you have to keep lubricating while you're doing this. And it's still difficult sometimes. It doesn't take a whole lot of force to get it in there, but it's can be difficult to get out. So then you have a product like this, and then you drill out the center of the cartridge and thread it. And I used 8mm brass rod, so I threaded it for 8mm. If you live in the United States, you might be better off finding a UNF of some size, but you want it pretty big, because afterwards you're gonna mill out room for them blanks, and if that insert is too small, it's gonna come out into this new hole for the primer. And when you install that piece of threaded brass rod in there, you have to use some high strength, high temperature Loctite. And when you have your finished product like this, you can start loading them. And you don't really need reloading press for this. I have a bench, it's the clamps onto the bench of ice, and I unscrewed and taken off the serrated jaws here, and it's kind of pivots in every angle that I want. And I use this to press in the bullet and the primer. And you can press the primer in first, like you normally would, and add the powder, and then press the bullet in. Or actually, there's a French company that makes casings like this for smaller guns, 32, 38, and 41, and they actually recommend putting the bullet in first and then adding the powder through the hole in the back, and then putting the primer in at the end. And that works too, but a little bit different than what you're used to if you've been reloading ordinary ammo. And sometimes it's difficult to get these little blanks to stay in there, because it has to be just right. And sometimes your drill bit, a little vibration or something, because you're kind of working in that across from one part to the other, right in that threaded area. So you can easily get some sort of vibration or wobbling going on. And then maybe you push the primer in there and it just falls out. But that's no big deal. All you gotta do is get yourself some fingernail polish. And doesn't matter what color it is, but I would probably prefer a clear one like this. And what I do is I put a little bit of that into that hole. And you can let it dry before you put the primer in there, or you can put the primer in there right away. It really doesn't matter. But that will give it enough friction so it will stay in there. So no reason to get upset if you're not getting it quite perfect. And another thing that has been kind of difficult are these bullets. Now, these are heel-based bullets that go into the casing, and then the rest of the bullet is the same dimension as the outside of the casing, kind of like a 22 long rifle round. And I bought some real nice bullet molds from Old West bulletmolds.com, and they are really nice. I really like them. There's a 200 grain bullet intended for a 44 Henry, but they seem a little too. They are a little too thick to go inside of these casings that I have, and so I had to come up with a solution to kind of work that bullet a little bit, to slim it down a little bit, and I came up with this thing. Adjustable, works like a charm. You put the part of the bullet that goes into the casing in this part of the pliers, and you just squeeze it. You rotate a little bit, squeeze, rotate, squeeze, and keep on going like that. And that will create a perfectly round bullet, and will now enter your casing a little bit, and that's what you want. And then you use that vise to press it in. And some of the bullets I made I pressed them a little too much, so they fit in there a little loosely, and that might explain some of the lower velocity rounds, because it's important that these rounds have some resistance, so the pressure will build up in there before it kind of lets go. I've seen that a lot in muzzle loading, different kinds. And of course that screw that I have installed there, that makes it adjustable. So, you know, so you can play around with this and get it just right. And so I'm thinking this thing and the fingernail polish, that's those things are going to make your life a little easier if you plan on reloading and making your own rimfire rounds. And I know of 3 different companies that sell these things, and I'll post the websites down below, so you can check that out. But if you live in Norway or someplace other than United States, these companies, they don't really want to ship outside of the United States, so life's a little more difficult for us. The one company is located in France, and I have videos using their products, and they're super nice. You could use one of their casings as a piece of jewelry and hang it around your neck, or earrings. They're just beautifully made. So it's a shame to mess them up, because you know how things look when you shot black powder. But those are really super nice, and of course Dixie Gunworks have a few different sizes, but there's one more company, I can't really remember what they're called, but I'll put it down below. They have a huge selection, and I could actually buy these rounds that I'm using from them, but they don't want to ship them to me. I could get a US shipping address, and that would help, but I had fun making them. May not look like much. I made 36 of these long ones, and I had already made 9 of the shorter ones, but it's not easy. Things go wrong and you mess up, and it takes time, and there's an awful lot of steps involved. So if you can buy them, you save yourself a lot of time. Now let's zoom in and see if we can see how I did. There's our target. Let's see if I can loosen this mount a little bit. Huh. That black square is an 8-inch square, so that's about the size of a human head, and that's a 2-inch wide tape. So so we're kind of all over the place, but I'm willing to take the blame for that, and I'll blame it on this disease that I'm struggling with. Well, I couldn't really get a comfortable position, and my eyes are getting. So it is what it is, but got a couple of them in there where they should be. So I think the gun is okay. The shooter, maybe not so much. And there's my chronograph. Crony 1. I don't think it ever showed correct velocity ever. Always low. So I guess that's gonna be it for now. And I have a lot more videos planned, and there's gonna be revisits of guns you've seen before, and there's gonna be some that you haven't seen before. There's gonna be Civil War guns, muskets, rifle muskets, and revolvers. Colt Dragoon, third model, cut for stock, and there's gonna be flintlocks, and there's a lot of stuff I have planned. So come back some other time. See you.